And I think, yeah, this person was getting more laughs than me. Do you remember this?
I do.
And if you watch the show, we'll do it better than that.
I had to say
That's
that.
true.
Sorry.
That's true
We're
though.
perfect.
안녕하세요 여러분, 김지윤입니다. 오늘은 굉장히 색다른 자리를 마련을 해봤습니다. 뮤지컬 팬이라면 모두 기다리고 있을 공연이 아닌가 싶습니다. 위키드, 20년이 넘은 정말 초대형 히트 뮤지컬이죠. 이 위키드 뮤지컬의 오리지널 팀이 7월에 내한 공연을 합니다. 그에 앞서서 홍보도 하고 또 여러 사람들 만나러 위키드의 두 주인공 글린다 그리고 엘파바 두 분이 이 자리에 오셨습니다. 글린다 역을 맡은 코르트니 몬스마님, 엘파바 역을 맡은 쉘든 애덤스님과 인터뷰를 해보겠습니다. Hello!
Hi!
Great to see you guys!
Thanks for having us.
So, could you please say a quick hello to Korean fans?
Hi, my name is Sheridan. I'm playing Alphabet and I cannot wait to be bringing Wicked to Korea.
Hello, my name is Courtney Monsma. I play Glinda in Wicked, and I similarly cannot wait to be bringing Wicked to Korea.
So, the Wicked is a really memorable musical to me. It was 2016 and I was visiting New York with my son and I told him to pick one musical and he somehow picked Wicked.
Good choice.
Yeah, I can see that. This is a good choice. But it was a little bit kind of surprise to me because I was expecting him to choose like Lion King or something like that. But he chose Wicked. So why did you choose Wicked? And then later on, he told me the reasons. First, he liked the poster. And another reason was he wanted to see something different. The third reason was because he knew the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
And it is based on the Wizard of Oz, but with a twist. So he was very curious about the musical. So we went there and watched it. I was a little bit concerned because his English was not perfect. So I was a little bit worried maybe he would not understand the whole musical, the storyline and everything. But the thing is, he never fell asleep and he shed tears.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, at the end. So I realized it's power of music and of course the power of musical Wicked.
Yeah.
So welcome to Seoul and we are so looking forward to seeing the Wicked in Seoul again.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that story with us. That was really beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh.
But for those Korean audience who are not really familiar with the story and also how it connects the Wizard of Oz to the Wicked, could you briefly explain the storyline and everything?
Yeah, of course. So Wicked kind of centers around two beloved and quite iconic characters from The Wizard of Oz. Some people may better know Elphaba as the Wicked Witch of the West. And then we have Glinda the Good. We like to explain Wicked to audience members while you're watching our show. It's as if you're kind of taking a peek behind the emerald curtain and you get to see what happens in Oz before Dorothy drops in. So it's not necessarily a prequel, but it is just kind of an extension of a story of these two beautiful women and their friendship and a lot more.
Yeah, and it definitely, you know, obviously starts pre-Wizard of Oz, but then as we get into Act 2 of the show, all of the kind of things click in when we see the similarities between the Wizard of Oz as well. So Dorothy kind of interludes within that as well. So we're kind of in present time, which really links the two together.
Right. So it's like a slightly different perspective looking at the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And also looking at the two different witches. And there's no clear line between the evil and virtue and no clear line who is bad and good.
Yeah.
And also it explains the whole world actually, and how society can divide very ordinary and friendly, nice people into different sides. Yeah. So it is really a fascinating story. And Wicked has enchanted people around the world for more than 20 years. It first debuted Broadway in 2003, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you think make it so timeless and beloved by the people all around the world? How many was that? 20 million people watched The Witches?
Lots of people.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, the themes of the show are so prevalent to any society that watches it, any time frame, 20 years ago till now. They really kind of, it makes you leave the theatre asking yourself a question about yourself, asking you questions about how you view other people, how you view the world. And on top of that, you've got the incredible score, which is some of the best songs you've ever heard, and the spectacle of it being such a Broadway blockbuster musical with all the costumes and the sets. So it really does tick every box. And I think it's a really good show when you can leave a theatre and you can ask yourself a question about who you are or who you want to be.
The themes are timeless. The questions that Wicked asks, we have been asking as humans for a really long time, which sometimes is kind of sad as well. I think humans don't learn from history.
Yeah.
And also, one thing I think that makes it timeless is that it's set in Oz. So it is this magical land. It's not set in a specific time period. And I know that Stephen Schwartz, I listened to an interview, and he said that when he was creating the score, he didn't want any of the songs to sound like a particular genre of pop music from the 80s or the 90s. He wanted it to be timeless in itself, and he wanted it to be Ozian. So he wanted it to kind of represent this magical other world, and you get to step into it for the first time when you see Wicked. It's really amazing.
How do you interpret your role, your character?
How do I interpret her? I think I've loved getting to know her over the span of 2 to 3 years as well. And I think she's so much more than the Wicked Witch of the West, which is entirely what Wicked is about. And in the beginning, we meet her and she's this young, hopeful university student, and she's so excited to meet the wizard, and there's a whole lot of joy. And then, without obviously spoiling the show, she goes through a really transformative journey, which I think a lot of people do throughout their lives. And I interpret her as a really strong, powerful young woman who is led by compassion and acceptance, and also searching for love. Even though she is very, very strong and steadfast, I think there is that vulnerability to her, and it shows that what she actually wants is to be accepted. And she accepts others so readily. And I think as time goes on in my life, I'm starting to see a little bit more of her in myself, which is really exciting. And that's only because I've had the chance to play her.
Well, you were praised playing the perfect Glinda.
Oh, that's very
nice.
nice.
Yeah, so
thank you.
So what is your interpretation of Glinda?
I would say really just focusing on her authenticity. And I think that's the thing that, you know, with a role like this, it could seem a bit a lot, because Glinda is a lot. You know, she's 0 to 100, and that can seemingly be quite a full-on thing. But I think it's never is if you're following it with like 100% authenticity. And that's kind of my way into interpreting her. I just wanted to kind of add the parts of myself into her. And, you know, when she's excited, she's 100% excited and she means it. And I think it's a beautiful thing as well to kind of understand her position in society and her position with the privilege that she has as well. And I've learnt so much from Glinda, and it's a beautiful thing on stage. You know, it's written so that Glinda is part of the system and that Glinda's loved and liked. And it's crazy how much you can do when you feel supported. And so it's kind of teaches you in a way that if you're not feeling that support, just like kind of finding that within yourself, because you can just reach higher heights when you do. But I think honestly trying to make myself giggle is really helpful. I just try and have as much fun as which is very easy to do. I just have as much fun as I can, and I just try and stay true to, if it feels right, then it's right. And then I think that translates. And I think audiences are really clever, and they can really sense inauthenticity on stage. So when you're believing what you're doing, everyone just wants to join in.
Which scene and which number do you think you get the biggest reaction from the audience?
I was thinking about this question. I think there's two that pop into mind, but they're different reactions. So obviously I think Defying Gravity, I think that song is just so incredibly written. And then you also have Popular. I notice every single night this roar of laughter. And of course, throughout the number, Courtney's doing her thing. So audiences don't want to get in the way too much, but you can hear the laughter. And then at the end, as she's coming off on the bed, you again hear this wall of sound and applause.
So lovely.
Yeah. But they're completely different songs, and they get completely different reactions from the audiences, but it's both so huge.
Yeah. It's beautiful how the show is crafted as well, because you can see the audience getting a bit more brave with their reactions as well, the way the show kind of progresses. So by the end of Act 1, they're standing up, not to leave for interval, but because they're loving it. And then obviously at the end, that big payoff with the show, like the big roar at the end is wonderful too.
I see. Well, is it too much if I ask you to sing a little bit of your favorite or your song?
I mean, we could sing a little bit of For Good, which is one of
duet.
both. Yeah, the duet, which is...
It's a bit of a tearjerker. Whenever we're on stage, often you can hear some sniffles and some tears.
Or from the audience sometimes.
Yes, from us and from the audience, definitely, yeah.
Could you?
Yeah, like a little taste.
Ryan, be loud. Okay, ready? And none of it seems to matter anymore. Like a comet blowing a ship as it passes by a wind of the sea. Like a stream that meets like a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better. I have been changed for good. And if you watch the show, we'll do it better than that.
Wow.
Thank you. I had to say that's true.
It was the song by the both of you at the end, almost at the end, right? That's, yeah, I can understand why people are shedding tears. It's such a tearjerker.
It's so unexpected as well. I remember when I saw the show for the first time, the soundtrack is built so that you don't know what happens. So even if you've listened to the CD, you don't really know the narrative and the twists and the turns. And I just remember being in the theatre when I was 16 and I was just bawling my eyes out. I was like, I thought this was going to be a happy, joyful show. And it is. It is, but it also allows you to feel, which is really just like your son, you know, like if we're shedding tears, it's nice to know we've touched some people.
Well, landing on the roles like Elphaba and Glinda must have been super competitive, I guess. So could you guys share your unforgettable moments while you're doing the audition?
These roles come around once in a lifetime, and it's just beautiful that it's come at the perfect time for us. And these are the roles that you listen to when you're growing up, with learning your love for musical theatre. And Glinda was always a dream role for me, and it was quite an extensive audition process because these roles really require so many things. So I was in an audition room improvising around a chair. For Glinda, obviously, it requires a lot of the comedic element as well. So that was really, really exciting and really fresh. And we worked with a wonderful director, and it was so exciting booking the role. And the coolest part about it for me is that my older sister, is also in the show as well. So we both auditioned together and both got part of the cast together, which is just the most beautiful thing. So when I found out I got the role, I was very excited. But when my sister found out she got the role, I cried. So that was my beautiful moment.
Yeah. By the way, I love Glinda.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
She's just the kind of person that I like to have around.
Yeah, so authentic.
Yeah.
My audition experience was similar to Courtney's in that it was very extensive. So I had multiple auditions, had to fly to different cities. And I just remember seeing that Wicked was coming to Australia, and it's just a show I've wanted to be a part of ever since I was a little girl.
Oh.
But I'm quite fresh in my career. Well, I was. I still am in a way. I'm quite fresh in my career. So I remember just seeing the audition notice saying, I would just love to get in the room. I would love to sing the songs for a panel and just audition for the show. And then while I was auditioning, I was like, I would really love to be in it, but in any capacity, in any way. And I didn't know that I was being taken seriously and being considered for the lead role until I got the call, which was very, very exciting. I got the call when I was at the train station with my friend, and I fell to the ground and I did the crying. And I remember sitting on the train thinking, oh, this is what people talk about when they say something doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
And like, as Elphaba says in The Wizard and I, did that really just happen? And you kind of have this moment questioning reality. And I knew from then on that my life wouldn't be the same.
Well, live theater is full of surprises. Maybe there are some moments that you guys caught off guard and think is very hilarious. So could you share some episodes like that?
Popular, whenever Courtney does popular.
Yeah.
Courtney is such a brilliant actress, and there's there's a balance in her performance where she does the job, she does Glinda, she says the lines, but there is, like she's described, this authenticity and this freshness that allows her to play every single night. So even though there might be a new joke or a new inflection or a new way she does something, it's so Glinda and it's still within the show, but it always takes me by surprise. And often there are moments where I find myself giggling at a little movement that she's done that she's never done before. And I think, yeah, this is... And that often the audience is laughing at me, having a little giggle, and I'm like, okay, no, I've got to get it together. I've got to get it together. So that there are often some funny moments. It's often in that song for me.
Very good improviser.
Yes, improvisation. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, it comes with a safe environment. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
You're so welcome.
So one of our very first performances of Wicked with a full audience, we're used to doing this in a rehearsal studio, so you get a few giggles here and there.
I'm like, what are you about to say?
So there's one audience member had the funniest laugh I've ever heard in my life. It was like, ha ha, it was like that. So every joke that was said, and there's a lot of comedy in Wicked, it go ha ha after everything, and it was so, they were in the front row, it was so loud. The fact that it was so funny, the whole audience would laugh at the laugh. So there'd be the joke, there'd be the laugh, then there'd be another laugh. And do you remember this?
I do.
It was so funny. So it was really hard to not, like, laughter is so contagious. It was really hard to not. So this person was getting more laughs than me. But that was a funny moment. Sometimes obviously you can't control, what you hear, and you put up the fourth wall and you ignore it. But it is funny when you get off stage, you go, did you hear that? Yeah.
Well, it's a distraction, but you love that distraction.
Yes.
You love that one, and the audience love the distraction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a fun laugh. Well, it's about friendship. And the friendship between Glinda and Elphaba goes ups and downs. And at the end, they understand each other and they accept each other as they are. That was a really beautiful moment, I think. So what kind of message about friendship do you want people to carry with them after the show?
I would say that friendship is very complex, and that I think it requires accepting someone for who they are and what they're also going through at the time as well. There's obviously different things that happen with Glinda and Elphaba within the show, and it's the overall acceptance and the forgiveness as well at the end that is what makes a bond really special, because nobody is perfect and everyone does have their own system that they come from and they're fighting for different things, but ultimately we all want the same thing, and that I think that's to connect, and just knowing that there's nuance within a connection, and that sometimes it's self-serving, sometimes it's not, and then it's just about that forgiveness within that other person and the flaws that they have too.
I think I'd like people to take the message that it's really important to love and accept and embrace people for who they are, just as Courtney had said. Embrace people for their differences. And I think that's what makes people special, and that's what makes a friendship unique, and that's what makes a connection unique. And I think often before we even get the chance to build a friendship or a connection, there is kind of that judgment or that surface level kind of assumption. And not only I would love for people to bring that into their friends or into their lives with people they know, but also people they don't know. You can accept someone for who they are if you've met them for 3 seconds and you're at a restaurant or you're on the street. I think a little bit of love can go a long way.
Elphaba decides to stand by what she believes in. On the other hand, Glinda decides to stay in the system and maybe try to make some changes in there. So what do you think about the decision of each other?
Okay. Interesting.
I think it's funny because I believe Glinda obviously has her journey to understand that, but I think Glinda is probably threatened and in awe of what Elphaba is allowed to do and how authentic she is with what she wants. And Glinda has come up in this world of privilege that's so confined into who she is. But I think she sees that within Elphaba and is admired by that in her, which then inspires the big change that she has in the end to, like that question, can you really delete a whole system, or do you find the way to make the system work for you? And she teaches Glinda how to do that. And so my perspective of Elphaba doing that is just like incredible. And I think in the beginning she's really threatened by that authenticity and that her righteousness to do what's right, because Glinda's version of what's right is often more, I guess in the beginning, maybe self-serving or serving for the good of other people, but that's not really what she actually wants. So
that's you're good.
Oh, thank you.
I've thought about the good.
Into the good.
I think Elphaba stands up for what's right, and there's often no questions or second thoughts. And it's quite, I don't want to say impulsive, because sometimes that has negative connotations, but she follows her heart in the moment, and she knows what she can control, and often she can't control what's happening around her, but she can control her response and herself, which I think a lot of people can relate to in their lives. So she tries to respond as an individual, and sometimes individuals can make change. But Glinda, not chooses, I think that's another question of what does each character choose to do and what is forced upon them. But I think Glinda does make the choice to try and create change within the system. And I think there is a place for that, and I think that's really important. I think learning to accept everyone's differences and also the system that you have been brought up in is important, but there's also power in trying to change that while you're within it. And often when you are within it, I've repeated myself a bit, but Glinda has that platform, and because she's within the system, people are listening to her and they look to her. And I think if you have the right people in those positions, change can be made from the inside. But I also think it requires a lot of individuals as well. I don't think it's one or the other. I think both kind of work in tandem.
The reason why a lot of people love the Wicked is not just the friendship. It is teaching people how to embrace differences and the learning the empathy. And also it has a lot of very deep political layers. For example, like, how the propaganda and control and fear can be used by those who are in power, and which is happening actually in the real world very much. So how was your take on those very deep and meaningful social and political layers in the musical?
Yeah, I remember when I first saw it, even like when I was 16, so it was 10 years ago, I remember kind of relating it to what has happened in the past. And we see this story and we're like, oh, it's very reminiscent and maybe we can learn from this. And it's kind of difficult to acknowledge and say that all of those things are still happening today. And I think that's another reason why I love Wicked is it is a show that is not only entertaining and fun and funny and joyous, but there is those hidden messages. And I think a lot of good art have those messages underneath, and it allows people to go home and think, what can I do today to create change and maybe try and fight back against some of those people who might be in power, and what can I do to make the world a better place if other people aren't necessarily doing it, if we've elected them or if they've been chosen. So I know it might be sad sometimes out the world, but at least you can come to Wicked. Yeah. You can have a really, really wonderful time and then maybe create change, when you go home. It's a cool thing that we get to do.
I think, like you were saying, when you watch Wicked, you go, oh, you can really see a clear narrative and you go, this is happening, this person's being manipulated, this is the protagonist. But in real life, we often don't know that because we are manipulated, and that's what manipulation is that you're blinded to that. So you watch it objectively and you go, this is happening, but when you're in it, you don't realize, because it's like when fear is over logic, it allows people to control you in a way. So, and it's fascinating. It makes you really think about like the things that you do based on those sort of things as well.
Okay, so probably my last question. So can you share the message that you would like the audience to take with them after the show?
Yeah.
There should be something special in Wicked.
I would love people, after they see Wicked, and a message that they can take with them is not only to embrace other people for their differences, because I think that is a really cool message for the show, but also embracing ourselves and what make us unique, and our differences and our strengths and so-called weaknesses and quirks, because I think Elphaba learns to do that throughout the production, and I think our relationship with ourselves is really important. I think if we learn to give ourselves love and care and respect, it's a lot easier to then give it to other people. So I'd love for audience members to remember that.
Similarly, I think when people watch Wicked, they really have their own version of their Elphaba or their Glinda in their life. And I think when you leave the theatre, you can, be reminded to appreciate that friendship. And I think it's also a beautiful thing about women in friendship as well, and how like when we stand together, we rise together, which is what happens. And just understanding that as women, that's really important to do. But also, in a way to just question if you're putting someone in a box because of their differences, or if you're viewing something black and white, that there's always complexities that we don't realize.
Well, Wicked is loved by a lot of people, obviously, and one of the reasons is it's not just about the friendship. It is about two beautiful girls learn how to love each other, and also they find themselves, understand who they really are, and also establish their own identity. And this whole journey actually rings to many people around the world, and particularly a person like me and my son, who doesn't understand English that well, but still he got really, really impressed by the show and shed a tear. And that was a really special moment too. So that's why The Wicked is a very special musical to me. So, well, thank you so much for being with us today. And I don't have to wish you luck because it's going to be a big hit.
No, thank
but
you.
Still, I will. And definitely I'll look forward to you guys are playing in Wicked, and I'm going to bring my son again this time.
Hey, that's a beautiful full circle moment.
Yes, please let us know when you're in. We'd love to see you again.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Those questions are beautiful.
Oh,
thank you. Thank you.
Much.
We did it. Oh yes.